sitting in a car, I'm driving, and I'm with another person. I've gotten so deep into conversation with this other person that they are now giving me their speech that they're going to give in their speech class to the rest of their class, obviously. And it's the first speech that they're giving in this class, and it's a 1 minute speech on a person that they had interviewed in the class, someone that they didn't know. And he's giving this speech, and he's talking about this former Marine that just sounds like a badass, and he tells all these tales about living over in Europe and just how crazy insane this person is, and he ends it with, "Oh, and he can dunk." This is just this little, "Oh, and he can dunk." The delivery with which he said it, and the surprise and the juxtaposition to everything else that he had said in his speech was so on point and so perfect that I asked him. I said, "Did you mean to do that?" I mean, it's part of his speech. So I'm thinking, man, that was a really great way to end that speech. So 1 minute speech, really great way to end it. And he said he didn't, and I told him, I'm like, I don't know that you didn't, like, obviously you didn't mean to end it that way, but that is the perfect way to end that speech. It's this huge juxtaposition. It's funny because you're not expecting it, and because it's something that you just you can understand, and it's surprising, and it was just perfect. And for me, it brought me back to Jeff Smarr and our days in college of him saying, "I could teach you how to dunk." As soon as he said it, I immediately thought back to that moment, that memory, and I was amused by it. And I think one of the big things is the delivery of how we talk to people is a huge thing. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. The delivery of how we do things is important, and you can see that in many ways. But one of the things that recently has happened is especially with music. You're watching YouTube, and there are songs that come on that these people do on these singing competitions that are different renditions of songs that currently exist. And one of the songs is actually from that I listened to recently, that the delivery is just so much different than the original artist. And it was funny because the original artist is actually like one of the judges, and it's Jason Derulo's song "Savage Love," and Etienne Steven is on the blind auditions in The Voice Australia, and she performs that song in such a different rendition, but it's just so good. And even Jason Derulo in the middle of the audition is, while she's still singing, is like, wow, that's so good. He even acknowledges it. It's like, I honestly, her version of the song, her delivery of that song was so much better than his in Savage Love in the original that he performed. And to be able to do that is something truly spectacular. So, it's one of those things. I would say, think about the delivery of how you talk about things, and think of the delivery of what it is that you're doing, and try to do things your own way. And you will be surprised at how well it can be received, and how you'll be able to surprise people by doing it that way. You may not even realize it. Like this guy with the speech class, he didn't even realize it, but it was perfect. So that's kind of my spiel on delivery. I like to use the word spiel a lot. Notice that. I wanted to get into another subject. By the way, my name is Rishi, and this is the Rishi Mishra Podcast. This is episode 2 of season 2. It is it is the next topic that I want to talk about. I don't know what I was going to say. The next topic that I wanted to talk about is something that I've recently come across as I have discussed this more and more with people is how your text seem to other people. And I've listened to it as well on there's a book that, and I'll get into this topic later, but there's a book that I was talking about how texts are definitely different than any in-person conversation you're going to have. But a lot of times, especially in this day and age, majority of what we do is texting. And I understand that, and I understand the need that, hey, you're not going to be able to call everyone, and that they're busy and they're not going to be able to respond. That's perfectly normal. At the same time, because the texting is generally seen as much more stern, strict, mean, rude, whatever, without proper, I guess, adjectives in a sense, right? You have to have words that describe a little more what you're saying. You have to have exclamation points, emojis, stuff that appropriately shows how you're meaning to say what you're saying to the other person when they can't see you, when they can't hear you. You're not on a FaceTime call, you're not there in person. And I guess part of that is the tone of voice is obviously not necessarily there. And that's a huge thing as a part of the communication is the tone of voice in which you say things, the tempo in which you say things. And none of that can really be put out into a text. It's hard to do that. And then it came to me because I've done this before accidentally, but in some cases, just to record certain musical things and or other bits of audio is why we are engrossed in the age of technology that we are now, where data and the amount of data we send is really not a thing anymore, in the sense that it's we can send lots and lots of data, and we do, and yet we don't use voice clip recordings instead of text messages. And part of me thinks of this because of my friend Ashok. He's a doctor, and he absolutely, and even just in general, what he'll actually do is instead of sending a text message, he'll still send the text message to another person, but he'll actually do a voice to text. It's the most mind-boggling thing to me as I think about it now. Why couldn't he just send that voice message? I would much rather listen to a voice message than read the text. I think part of it's also because maybe you can't see it later. It's a much harder thing to do, and so maybe if there's a transcript underneath, that would be acceptable. I think that's definitely possible. It's harder to do a transcript with all the different dialects and being able to properly understand people with the slang and everything that goes on there. And I get that. But I think voice messages would make a lot more sense. I'm going to start trying that now that I've thought about it, and it allows you to be able to give tone of voice, speed of the voice, and kind of helps to bring across what you're saying more so than just a text message. And I think it comes down to, will people be annoyed? It's something different, it's something new, it's something they're not used to. It's similar to kind of, not similar, but it's in the same vein as, me putting my ellipses before and after text. I stopped doing that almost 10 years ago now. I'm going to start trying to send voice messages instead of text messages and see how it goes. I'm not sure how it's compatible with each person's phone, but if it's just a voice clip, I don't think it should make a difference. And so I'm not sure why we don't use that more as a society. Like I said, I think it's just because maybe of the transcript not being there and people wanting that transcript, people being able to want to understand that. We'll find out. And one of the things I had mentioned earlier was that part of me learning about how people interpret text messages is from just previous or recent discussions with other folks on how text messages come across, but also because of one of the books that I've read recently. And I kind of wanted to go over some of the books that I am reading right now, just for awareness, that have, I think, significantly helped me to improve my understanding of certain things, mental state, and other people, and just I think also to give me an understanding of the fact that of who I am and kind of the worth or the value that each person has. And so the first few books, not first few, I'm just going to read through them. There's 3 of them recently that I've read or am reading, I guess. One of them is called Models, Attract Women Through Honesty by Mark Manson. You got another one called How to Know a Person. Now, stop it. How to Know a Person. Subtitle is The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen, and that's by David Brooks. And then the third book, the one I'm currently reading right now, is called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And this book was something that I chose to read because one is recommended in a previous book. I've talked about the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and also Aaron Rodgers apparently has read this book, and that was one his quote-unquote book club when he did that with Pat McAfee. So I've started reading that, and I'm only about 40 minutes in, and one of the things is the power, like I get the title of the book now, it's literally, can you stop thinking and just live in the present? I don't think many people could stop thinking, turning off your mind and just stop thinking. And it's mind-boggling. I had to listen to the first 30 minutes. Actually, I guess not the first 10, but like the last 30 before I got to I read about 40 minutes worth, right? So the last 30 minutes that I've read, I had to listen to that twice to fully get it. And it just hit me, boom, like I got it. And I understand what it means now, is that if you just stop thinking about all the stuff that's happened in your past, if you stop thinking about what could happen in the future, and you stop thinking about all these destructive things that are just constantly peppering your mind, and live in the present, live in the now, it'll be much better off. And I will continue to read the book or listen to the book to understand more, maybe if that truly is what the book is trying to get at. But that's what I'm getting at. So what I've gotten so far out of that book, How to Know a Person, the one by David Brooks, The Art of Being Seen The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen. One of the things there is that book is reminding me a lot of Chris Voss's teachings, and his way of quote unquote negotiation and or talking to people. It's very similar in that sense, but I think it expands on it in a slightly different light as well, and it tries to get to know people in a very deep way, is to get to know the real people, to get to know important things about them and their culture and who they are as a person, in addition to just knowing how they operate, their relationships, and how their relationships with other people are, to understand how they act and how they behave, and to make sure. I think one of the biggest things that he talks about is recognition is as important to a human being as food and water. To feel recognized means that you are not invisible, that you are seen and included wherever you go. And that's huge. I think if someone feels like, hey, these people actually see who I am and are including me in this, and that they understand what I'm going through, and those different things. That's very important to people, especially in their mental state. To their mental state, I guess is what I would say. And so some of these things, when it comes to talking about things deeply, is just this is a question I'd come up with after listening to him talk about how he goes about trying to understand people. Is one of those things, is like, have open-ended questions to get to understand people better. So like asking questions of like, what is the most difficult thing that you've had to do in your life? It's a very open-ended question. It gives them the opportunity to answer from any time period in their life, any instance, any situation. There is no specifics there, or like, what gets you excited? That could be another question, and that's again open-ended. It gives them the opportunity to tell you about something that they get excited about, and why they get excited about it, and how do they, he talks. I think one of the questions he mentions is like, instead of asking why somebody believes something, is he asks, how did you come to believe that? Right? Like, how did you come to that belief? Like, what is it that shaped you in your life to make you believe those things? And I think it just makes sense. It gets you deeper conversations, more meaningful conversations with people, to try and understand them and be able to, when you understand people, you'll be able to talk to them better, and to be able to have better, meaningful discussions with them than you would before. And then the book models Attracting Women Through Honesty by Mark Manson. Honestly, the biggest thing in that book is that women, and quite honestly probably men too, based off of what he was saying, are not attracted to neediness, aka you want to be non-needy, and the way to be non-needy is to be vulnerable, is to be honest with the people around you, and is to be honest with the people that you talk to, and is to be able to invest in yourself ahead of others. So one of the things in that book that he talks about is that most men, when they talk to a woman, I guess one of the things he was saying is like, your thought is usually, oh my God, is she gonna like me? If you say something, oh man, did she like what I said? Is it funny? Is it something that like she's gonna think is great? And the whole time, all you're thinking about is her approval and like, what does she think? And in reality, you should be able to invest in yourself and think, is she the right person for me? Do I like her? And those things are something that people, I think, don't think about a lot. And I think if you invest in yourself, that's huge. We were playing pickleball. Me and Melvin were playing pickleball. We were just practicing. And when you play pickleball, as everyone knows, you're not necessarily going to hit the ball perfectly every time. That's the whole point, is that certain people are going to hit the ball, certain people are going to miss the ball, it's going to go in the net, whatever. And the ball is not necessarily going to stay on your court. It's going to go onto someone else's court, and that's just a natural thing to happen. And a lot of people, and I feel like these are people that are not secure with themselves for whatever reason, say sorry when the ball goes into another person's court, as if they had done it intentionally, as if, hey, shoot, like, yes, you're interrupting their game, but there's an expectation that this is going to happen. You have done nothing wrong. You are not intentionally hitting the ball into their court. If you are, then yes, you should say sorry. But if you're not, which 99.9% of the time you're not, you just ask for help. Be like, hey, sorry. You don't even have to say sorry. You could, see, I just said it there. But like, be like, hey, little help. Said that earlier today. Actually, I didn't say it. Noonie said it earlier today when we were playing pickleball. There's actually during that entire time with them, they hit the ball on our court. Again, this girl said sorry like 3 or 4 times, and I was just like, it's okay, you're good. And every time our ball went on their court, at no point did I say sorry. When they gave me the ball, I said thank you, but I did not say sorry at a single point, nor will I. I'm not sorry for hitting the ball on the court. It's going to happen. And I think it's one of those things where you have to be confident in yourself and what you're doing, and just trust that if you are doing things in the best effort and in a good way, that things will work out. Those are the books that I'm reading right now. I have one more book that I'm going to be reading, and I'll continue to read some more books. Actually, 2 more books. One of them is called The Charisma Myth. Apparently, Reshma is reading this. Or at least she started reading it. So I figured, why not? Apparently, it's free as well, based off the subscription I have. So downloaded that to read later. And then Faisal mentioned this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said that one of his mentors gave him that book to read, and he said it's a fantastic book for him. And I plan to read it later, and hopefully both of those are good books to read. And if they're not, then I probably will stop reading them at some point. But I think it's been important to read books to be able to learn more, because we can all learn more, and it's harder to learn more from TV shows, I guess is what I would say. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I will see you whenever the next podcast is.